Good morning. My name is Tammy, and you're watching my channel, Let's Heal. And today I want to talk about the subtle ways that let you know that you are unloved by a narcissist. I've identified 6 different things that indicate that subtle feeling that something is wrong. The reason I want to discuss this is because, at least from my experience, the good times are the hook. That's what hooks you. And it's real easy to, in the middle of your narc raging at you, it's really easy to say, this is it. I'm done. I'm leaving. And I find myself in this situation, in this, abuse wheel, because, that goes away and they calm down and they tell you they're going to change and they try to, work on things or pretend to work on things for a while. And because a normal person has the capacity to love normally, they understand that, I can still love you even when I'm mad at you. I can still love you even when you're not present in front of me. I can disagree with you, and then I can come to terms with that, and I can continue to love you. So your normal brain is trying so hard to fit this individual into that normal picture that it's very hard for you to wrap your mind around the fact that they really don't love you, that they are not in it with the same capacity for love that you are. Now, I feel like a narcissist, depending on where they are on the spectrum, does have a capacity for love, but I don't think that it's the kind of love that a normal person experiences. I believe that my narc loves my daughter, our daughter, but I think he views her as an extension of him, and I think, she's 3.5, and I think as she gets older, that things are going to change, and perhaps for me, that's what's holding me, because he does love her very much. He, how he relates to me isn't the same as how he relates to her, and maybe that will change. I'm guessing it will from all the research I've done, but at this point, that's how he is with her. So at any rate, when a narc is screaming at you and yelling at you and calling you names, it's real obvious that there's a problem, and it's a big problem. And this is, it in the moment. There is something majorly wrong with this person. I mean, who looks at a person they love and shouts these obscenities and makes up these lies and constantly keeps going back to the same accusations when there is no evidence at all, nothing, because it isn't happening, to substantiate what you're saying. And and they're saying to you, well, if you would prove to me that you're not cheating, or whatever, that you're a good person, that you care about me, however it is, and they're screaming obscenities at you, and you're just totally, you seem to be totally blindsided every time it happens. Even though it's not the first time, you're still completely shocked. So that's easy. That's easy to figure out something is majorly wrong. But my point here is, when things are good, that's the hook. That's when it's difficult, because things settle down. You and your normal thinking patterns think, okay, we're back to normal. Now it's quiet. Now I can kind of think straight. And you begin to rationalize, how it got so out of control, what he did, which is one reason why I started audio recording the argument, so that I could play it back and be sure about myself. But anyway, we're in this process where he's quiet, it's normal, we're back to the day-to-day. In my case, my narc seems to do the rage thing about every couple weeks. And it starts quiet, and then I can feel the tension building, and then he looks for something to blow up is what I think. But anyway, 6 things that are obvious to me that there's an issue even in the good times, that there is something wrong in this relationship even when things are, quote, good. The first thing is there's a feeling of distance. You still feel an element of distance even when things are good. You feel like if you share too much, you're opening yourself up for, being targeted with that information later. You feel like, you're right. I don't know you. Like, that's one of the things my narc will say a lot. You don't know me. When I try to talk about anything that he's shared with me, he corrects me, and you don't know me. And so there's always this element of distance. They always want to keep you to where you really don't know them. They want you to be off kilter. They want you to not be sure about who they are and what their motives are, of course. And the second thing is your good old-fashioned intuition. Your intuition is telling you, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel like a loving relationship. And, in my case, I've tried everything. I've gone, swallow your pride, try to let go of the comments, try to reach out and hug and, give an actual long hug or a kiss. And you have to ask yourself with complete honesty, is he hugging me? Is he, and I'm not talking about sex, I'm talking about the emotion, the feeling of attachment with your significant other. And, if I've had a bad day, does he see that? And does he say, hey, what's wrong? Are you okay? Do you need a hug? And in my case, the answer is no. There is no, there's a kiss, a peck, like you kissed your grandma, like that kind of a whatever. But I think that's as much as he can muster, because that's been a topic that I've discussed with him many times. Hug me, come to bed and lay by me and put your arm around me, those types of things. So you always know your intuition is telling you something isn't right here. This is not how it feels to be loved. I've been loved before. I can look at past relationships, that maybe didn't go well or didn't last, obviously. For instance, I was married. I was married almost 25 years. And the only reason we divorced was because of the death of my child, our child. And it was too much for us to handle, but he's still a very good friend, and he loved me right during that time. He loved me right. I would venture to say he still loves me. We care about each other to this day because we have a respect for each other as human beings. And that's missing. There is no respect for you as a human being. I should have made it 7 things, because that's another one, I guess. The third thing I wrote down was you still feel lonely. It's the good times. He's not screaming at you, but you still feel lonely. You still feel alone. You still feel like there's something missing. Something doesn't feel right. That kind of goes hand in hand with the whole intuition. I mean, I guess they're all kind of linked together, because loneliness is distance, and loneliness is my intuition is telling me something is wrong. The fourth thing that I felt is that the term, quote, relationship doesn't seem to apply. Like, and maybe this doesn't happen right away. It's been almost 5 years for me in this situation. And in the beginning, it was, this is a relationship, whatever. But as the years go by, and as the abuse mounts up to where there have been so many arrows shot at you, you come to a decision at some point that you don't owe this person that part of you to say you're in a relationship with them. Now, In my case, he would say, yeah, we're together. We're in a relationship. He would say we're together. But my point is in your heart, it's not a relationship. This is not how a relationship works, not a healthy relationship. So you just don't feel like that term fits. You don't feel like you should have to be tied by the term relationship to a person who has no respect for you, who calls you names and denigrates and downgrades you, and who targets everything about you, who is more your enemy than your friend because you've learned you cannot share, you can't overshare with a narc. And if you share, you will be punished for whatever information it is that you've shared. So, at least in my case, I've come to a point where the term relationship is unfair to be put on me in that situation with him, because that is not what I would consider a relationship. My definition of relationship is everything that this isn't. The fifth thing is empathy is missing. There is no empathy for you. They have no empathy for you. They, in my case, my narc will, he if a show comes on about tortured animals or, starving children, he will get emotional and I can't watch that and change it. So like superficially, he appears empathetic, but he isn't empathetic to the person sitting across from him that's trying everything they know to make it work, who's giving everything they have and putting it into the relationship, who is supporting him who in every way. There is no empathy there. I can say from my point of view, or from where I'm at, I've said this in other videos, I lost my son. I lost my son to a car accident. It's been almost 10 years. I believe, on a side note, that makes you very vulnerable to someone like a narcissist. That if you've suffered a huge loss, you are more vulnerable to being attached to by a narcissist. And I'm planning on making another video about that specifically, because I feel like that is how I got hooked. I got hooked because, in the beginning, when I was being love bombed, he's not a particularly romantic person, so that wasn't quite how it was. It was, I was pretty broken, and I still had issues with grief, which you always will have. I still do to this day. But, he was willing to listen and let me cry and so forth. And those are all things that, he was actually sizing me up, and he was actually gathering ammunition. That's, to me, the love bombing stage is the gathering and ammunition and sizing you up stage. And that's what he was doing, because some of the things I shared with him that were very personal and very gut-wrenchingly hard to say, he actually threw up in my face in later arguments. Some pretty bad stuff, very bad stuff. Like, I probably won't even go into it here. But anyway, things I had shared about my son and before he passed away, and his fear of, he was a Marine, and his fear of dying because his cousin had also died. And he cried one day. They let him call home, and he cried to me on the phone. And in a later argument, my narc threw that up in my face and mocked my son's tears. So that was a defining moment in our relationship that made me say, it's not a relationship. This is not a relationship. So empathy, no empathy for you. Like, cannot even fake it to this point. Like, at this point, 5 years down the road, he can't even fake empathy for me. I can talk about, and I still do sometimes test him with things that I know are safe, that I can share with him just to see his reaction, and he never fails me. He's very disinterested. Most often I can get halfway through a story and just stop midstream and not even finish it. and he doesn't even notice that I stopped because he is literally not listening to me. And to actually listen and say, I'm so sorry that happened to you. You know, that must have been terrible, or is there anything I can do, or anything that appears to be concern for me. There is no empathy in the relationship. And the last thing is joy is missing for you and your accomplishments. They are not happy for you in your successes. Empathy is missing. They're not sad for you in your struggles. And the opposite, or the other side of the spectrum, they have no joy or happiness for you in your accomplishments, in your successes, in the things that are going right or that you are proud of in your life. I have a business, and I am very much entrepreneurial by spirit, and I'm always pushing myself to get, since I've been with my narc, I got my master's degree. I got a license, an enrolled agent license, which was very difficult and took a lot of study. And I was very proud of myself for accomplishing it. I actually set out the goal, accomplished the goal, and actually went after and got the job that I wanted. Like, I planned out everything and it all worked. And I do that often. I set goals for myself, and I achieve, and I find I pour myself into that now because because of the loneliness or things I have missing in my fake relationship. I go out and succeed in other ways, and I pour my energy. I create positive energy in my life in those ways, and I have friendships and people that I can talk to that will support me and keep me focused in those ways. Other people besides the significant other, so to speak, that you're supposed to have at home. So you can't rely on them to be joyful about your successes. And if you don't open up an avenue somewhere else for other people to be supportive of you, and other people to, lift you up and encourage you and build your self-esteem, then all you have is this empty shell of a person that is actually more your enemy than even your friend, let alone your lover or your spouse. Even using the term friend doesn't fit. Using the term relationship doesn't fit, but neither does the term friend, because a friend wishes you well. A friend is happy for your successes. They want to celebrate in your successes, and they want to be there for you in your failures and in your downtimes. And they want to be supportive of you in all situations. A true friend. And in a relationship, the ideal relationship would be your friends first. But the narc will trick you in the beginning into thinking that's your friends first. And one day you'll realize that they were never your friend. So those are just some things to think about, how in the rageful times, it's very clear that there is something majorly wrong in this relationship. And it's easy at that point to say, I want out. I need out of this situation. This is not healthy. But when it goes back to the good times and you've got the little interim before the next explosion, that's when it's the most difficult. That's when you really have to go deep within your self and pull your intuition out and see the subtleness of the fact that they do not truly value you as a person. I know my narc, he will make little subtle digs, quiet, subtle digs that most of the time I ignore. He I don't know if he thinks I don't hear them or what, but for the most part, I ignore them only because I've now learned that I can choose the reaction to his behavior. I can't choose his behavior, but I can choose the reaction. And I can fall apart and think, oh my gosh, he just said, whatever about me. And like, for instance, you say you're going to, in my case, when I go to work, that's a loose term, because as a business owner, work doesn't mean I'm going to a place and I'm going to stay there. It means I'm going to take care of all the tasks surrounding that business. And so oftentimes, I have to go and pick up supplies and so forth. And so I will take off and go do that. And then he will say something when he finally wakes up about, where are you? And I will say, I'm at work. And then later I'll mention, I had to run to, the next big town, because our town's small, and pick up some supplies. And he will say, see, you're such a liar. And because you said you were at work. And we've discussed the concept of work for me many times. This is my work. My work is this. If I have a couple of businesses, but I have 2 retail businesses, and one of them is a flower shop. And oftentimes I have special orders for funeral work or something of that nature, and I need to go and make a run to a wholesaler to pick up product. And so it's that example, is like, I had to go, to the wholesaler and pick up this product. And so he will turn it around and say, you're a liar. You were not at work. I went by there. That's one of his famous things, is I went by there, which the narcissist is projecting on you what he is. He will lie and say he went by there, which I know full well he didn't, because he was sleeping. But at any rate, I don't want to make this video any longer, but be conscious of the subtleness of how you're neglected and not cherished, I guess is the word to say. That's what reminds you. That's how you know that it is not a loving relationship, that they do not love you as an individual. They love what you can do for them. They love what you're giving them. They love the narcissistic supply of you, but they don't love you, because if they did, they would be honoring you even in the small and subtle things. So thank you for listening. Have a great day. Please subscribe to my channel, and so I know that what I'm saying is worth hearing, and maybe someone out there will benefit from my words, and together we can find the courage to step out of these relationships and away from these narcissistic individuals. Thanks.